Hello, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us today. We are going to spend the next hour talking about professional property management. Thank you so much for joining. This is Scott Pastel, VP of Property Management and Real Estate at Marshall Reddick, and I'm joined by Emily Sanders, our Regional Property Manager. Emily and I both run a team of about 40 to 50 different staff members at Marshall Reddick that all work in our property management. I'll give you guys just a little bit of time. I know we're just right at about 5 o'clock Pacific, or 7 or 9, wherever else you are in the country, or maybe even out of the country. We're really happy that you're joining us today. We do plan to go through all the nuts and bolts of professional property management and focus heavily on how Marshall Reddick does property management. We definitely have a few unique components to our property management that we're going to explain, some things that do make us quite different than the average property manager. And we're going to go through a lot of philosophies, a lot of the role responsibilities of a property manager. We're going to go through a lot of do's and don'ts. So if you've got a notepad, if you've got a pen, anything to write with, you want to take notes. We are also recording the presentation, so we'll make sure that everybody that is attending receives a copy of the presentation. Okay, with that said, we'll kind of go ahead and get started here on our slides. And again, the focus tonight is how and why to hire a professional property manager. And you notice there's an underline under professional property management. A lot of loose terms in the property management industry. You've got realtors that act as property managers in some cases. You've got a lot of landlords that try to manage their own properties. Strong emphasis on try. And you've got a lot of professional property management companies in the industry with wide ranges of quality, right? Everything from the good, the bad, the ugly. So it's important to understand what is a good property manager, what should a good property manager do, what can you expect from a good property manager, and of course, why and how to hire a good professional property manager. So those of you that are new to Marshall Reddick Real Estate, we are a very unique company with 4 different services. We operate in many different states across the country as well too. So we are a one-stop shop for real estate investors. You notice that many of you on the recording have purchased property or even in the process of purchasing investment property with Marshall Reddick. You notice that on our website, we've got properties in many different parts of the country that we're located. And we can help investors that are looking at anything from a single unit, single family property, all the way up to apartment buildings. We do manage about 2,200 doors nationwide. Again, that's a little over 2,000 properties that Marshall Reddick manages in 5 different states. So we've got our real estate brokerage, which services this year, we'll see probably a little over 1,000 transactions combined. Again, our property management, currently at about 2,200 properties. We're forecasting probably close to 3,000 doors under management by the end of the year. Marshall Reddick also has a full private lending department of 15 full-time staff members. Our private lending team operates out of our Newport Beach, California office, and we do fund loans in about 30 different states across the country. That's all asset-based lending. And then finally, Marshall Reddick is also a fund manager. We have a private Reg D fund. It's a debt fund. Many of you, I think, are already familiar with our investment fund. All of this you can find on our website. We are big on transparency. That's going to be another theme that you're going to see on our presentation, is that we are all about transparency. We want our clients to know everything about us, exactly how we operate, to give them not just a strong sense of expectations, but a lot of predictability in what they can expect in working with Marshall Reddick. And we're very proud of the way we do business. So we try to, put all of our internal aspects on our website so that clients can see what we manage, where we manage, and how we do property management. So this is Scott. This is me speaking right now. I am Scott Pastel. I've been with the company for 17 years. I started working here in February 2005. I'm not the only person that's been with the company for this long. It's a very, very unique company. I was 21 years old starting here in 2005, had no understanding of real estate whatsoever. Came from a family. My parents owned their home in Lake Forest in Mission Viejo. My father was a client of Marshall Reddick back in 2004, purchased a property in Arizona, and then I found out about an internship opportunity. And here I am today. So I was lucky enough to buy my first investment property about 14 years ago. I bought my second investment property 12 years ago and continued on from there. Thankfully, just with the resources, the knowledge, the teams, the softwares, all of the invaluable components that we offered allowed me as a young guy with no real estate experience to be able to build a portfolio, which is what we've done for tens of thousands of people. So property management really plays a key role in this. We call it the X factor of real estate investing. I also call it the make or break factor of real estate investing. And one unique thing about Marshall Reddick is that a very large amount of our staff members own investment property. I have not seen that to be the case with most real estate brokerages or property management companies. And I think a big foundation of that is our education. Our education has allowed so many people to build portfolios in real estate, which probably otherwise wouldn't have been able to without the free education that we provide. So I'm going to go over some of our property management philosophies. Again, we are a real estate investment company. We're not just a standalone property management company that collects rent and sends the rent to landlords and handles repairs. We do a lot more than that. So our philosophy with property management is that we believe property managers should only make money when the landlord makes money and not make money when the landlord loses money. I feel like there's a lot in that. A lot really can go into that, and a lot of companies don't practice that same philosophy. So a couple good examples are, we don't make fees when the property's vacant. We're not collecting a management fee. We're not collecting any income when the property's vacant, nor is the owner. We also don't profit from maintenance and repairs, which is the case with many property management companies. There are companies that do repairs and maintenance in-house. They might have handyman on their payroll. They may even be a general contractor. And that might sound good to a landlord. Oh, I can just use you guys for everything. You do the repairs, the maintenance. That all sounds great. Unfortunately, there are a lot of companies that don't make it very clear how much money they're making from repairs and maintenance. And it's easy for them to charge a low management fee. And most consumers won't understand why one company might be charging such a lower management fee without understanding that they're making a lot more than that in repairs and maintenance. So I'm going to talk about how we structure, and Emily and I will both be talking about how we structure repairs and maintenance and how it's a pass-through for Marshall Reddick, meaning that we have approved vendors in every category: plumbers, electricians, roofers, painters, handyman, house cleaners, landscapers, right? We can go on and on and on. We have dozens and dozens and dozens of vendors in each of our geographic locations that are all approved vendors. And Emily's going to talk more about that. That means that whatever the cost of the job is, the labor and materials go to the vendor directly. They do not go to Marshall Reddick. Marshall Reddick does not receive any cut in maintenance and repairs. I stress that because it's absolutely essential to have this type of structure when you're working with a property management company. And most landlords don't really want to switch property managers every year or two. I mean, who would want to do that? So when you're looking at an opportunity to work with one company for the remainder of the life that you own a property, I think it's really important to understand how that company makes money. Secondly, we're really big on trust. We have clients that have 10, 20, or more than 20 properties with us. We have dozens and dozens of clients that own properties in multiple states. A lot of clients that have started buying property out of state with us, investment property, and then realized, hey, I can use the same company I'm using in Texas, Tennessee, and Florida to manage my primary residence here in California, or even manage investment properties here in California. And whether you live in Texas or California or Florida or any other place in the country, we're located in 5 very key geographic areas that are really, really poised for investors. So for us, developing strong relationships by valuing trust and building it with transparency. We have nothing to hide, and we're happy to provide everything that's necessary. And then lastly, we're investment minded. That is not going to be the case for most property managers. When you look at most property managers, I think mostly they have a background in construction. It's not very common that property manager companies have a staff that mostly own investment properties. And it's not common that many property managers also help investors sell or acquire investment properties. These well-rounded aspects of Marshall Reddick allow us to be as focused, intentional, and effective in our property management as possible. Here are the types of properties we manage, everything from single family up to what we would call like small to mid-sized apartment buildings. And we're long-term property managers, meaning we don't do short-term, we don't do vacation properties, we don't do student housing, we do long-term property management. 12-month lease, one set of renters. We make it very simple. We don't house hack, we don't do rooms for rent. There's extensive risks involved in that for landlords, and property managers are simply not able to operate with that type of setup. So we have properties in every category. I would say in our entire portfolio, we have a very nice percentage of properties in the single family. Probably about 40 to 50% of our properties are single family. Say about another 30 to 40% are in the like 2 unit to 10 unit category. And about 10 to 15% in the apartments, 10 to 30 units. So we provide what's called a turnkey service. And you've got a column on the left, which is what resources we provide for landlords. The column in the middle is the resources, the value that we provide to our tenants. And on the right, it's specifically related to us preserving and keeping the integrity of every property that we manage. So I want to start for landlords. You know, I feel that as a landlord, the cost of hiring us alone is worth the portal. It's worth the owner portal. Like, we have 8 accountants at Marshall Reddick, 8 full-time accountants. We also use a management software called Appfolio. When I became a rental property owner and I was able to utilize the management software and log in and check my income and expenses, run reports with custom date ranges, see exactly what my expenses are in every category, from landscaping and gardening to property management fees to cleaning to capital improvements. One thing was for sure, it made my accounting and really my CPA's ability to do my accounting significantly easier. It's very important if you're looking to scale as an investor that you have an organized system in place. Our management software Appfolio is also mobile friendly, so you can log in on your phone. And again, we have clients that have 5, 10, 15 properties. That can be pretty cumbersome to keep organized. Not so much with our software. So every month we send out our rent disbursements the 10th of the month. At the same time we send out our rent disbursements, our landlords receive a monthly property statement that's going to have the income and expenses on it. We also provide an annual property statement. We call it the annual performance report that we send out at the end of January each year, again, to make it so simple and streamlined for our clients to do their accounting, to take all the write-offs necessary so they're not missing out on any write-offs that they should be claiming. In the owner portal, you'll find all invoices and receipts for any work ever performed on the property. That's a huge convenience in my opinion. You're also going to be able to find all the documentation on your property, the lease agreement that we signed with the tenant, any addenda that came along with the lease, the move-in inspection report that we performed before the tenants moved in, annual inspection reports that we performed while the tenants have lived there, even move-out inspections after renters have moved out, all invoices, all receipts, even tax documents. It's a very, very organized software that allows you to just have everything you need with the click of a button, even on your mobile phone. We do handle evictions. We mainly handle evictions for properties that we're managing. We have actually gone into a few scenarios where we've taken over a property from a landlord that had a tenant in default. By and large, we have found that when we place a renter, we have a less than 1% eviction rate. About 30% of our portfolio have renters that were in the property when we took it over. We do property management transfers almost every day. And in those cases, we inherit the tenant, we inherit the lease. We look at the lease that was transferred to us, either from the owner self-managing it or from another property manager. And we usually shake our head until we have a headache, because nobody really seems to write leases like we write leases. We're very aggressive in the terms. So we don't have in our lease agreement renters able to pay rent on the 15th of the month, which is something that we've seen in other lease agreements that have been transferred to us. We also charge the highest late fee that each state allows. We've seen leases that have been transferred to us with a $5, $10 late fee. So I guess what I'm saying is we're very, very intentional about every single detail in our property management, from every term in the lease agreement to how we lease, how we advertise, how we screen, how we handle repairs. Every single detail is intentional. Going down the list, we do to tenant procurement, meaning we lease properties. We'll go through that process in a little more detail. Again, we're intentional about how we take photos, where we advertise, what we charge for the property, how we do showings. Every single detail intentional. And then we obtain third-party repair bids. Some cases we're obtaining 2 bids on the same thing, or even 3 bids on the same thing. And we do a good example, fence repair or fence replacement in a backyard. In a case like that, we can get multiple bids for our landlord. We're not married to any one particular vendor. However, we only work and only utilize vendors that pass our approval process, which is something that we're going to talk about during the presentation in more detail. For tenants, we're extremely responsive in maintenance requests. We have a 24-hour turnaround time for our maintenance requests. We also handle emergencies immediately. If there's an emergency, our maintenance manager can drive out to the property. So we're able to diagnose maintenance requests sometimes over the phone with tenants. We have extreme documentation on every property we manage, so we know, if it's a gas water heater, if it's a tankless water heater. We know how old the AC condenser is. We know where the main water shutoff line is. We have a lot of detail on our properties so that when maintenance requests do come up, we're able to properly diagnose it. Again, for tenants, we're very thorough in the screening process. Notice a couple typos on there. Sorry about that. Employment verification, rent collection. So Emily's going to go through our leasing process in more detail. Just kind of want to give you guys some of the details on here. To the right, we do a rental market analysis for every single property that we manage before we list it for rent. We're going to pull comps that are either active for rent or have recently rented within the last 6 months. Same bed and bath, similar square footage. We're not just going to go off of whatever Zillow or Rentometer or whatever these websites throw in their algorithm. We're actually going to have human beings, intelligent human beings, experienced human beings that rent over 100 properties a month. We're going to have these individuals run the rental analysis for you. And finally, we do annual inspections. We do move-in and move-out inspections, so you're going to get a lot of documentation throughout the process. So how much money can you save by hiring a property manager? A lot of landlords will step over dollars to pick up pennies. It's understandable, right? They're looking at management fees and going, how do I save like $8 a month by going with one company with one percentage and another company with a slightly different percentage, right? Not understanding that they could lose thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars by a property sitting on the market too long, having terrible photography, no advertising exposure, nobody answering the phone when a tenant calls. That alone could cost you thousands of dollars if a property management company isn't marketing the property correctly. Maybe they don't understand what components should be in a property. Maybe they don't understand the necessity of a property having window coverings or a refrigerator. So in any case, I want to explain that we have a 99% success rate at renting our properties in under 30 days in the last 2 years. That's because the old adage, if you give a wise man 8 hours to chop down a tree, he's going to spend 6 hours sharpening his axe. I think many of you have heard that before. That's because we don't just throw a property on the market, go with whatever rent that Zillow is suggesting, take pictures on our phone, and hope for the best. Every little detail. We walk properties before we put it on the market. Our maintenance manager does a full detailed inspection to figure out what that property needs in order to make it rent ready. Our leasing and management team conducts a rental market analysis to figure out exactly how much we should price the property for. Not too much and not too little, but exactly what we feel we can get in rent. We also have an experienced, intelligent human being called our leasing agent that answers all inquiries as they come in, screens calls, and schedules showings. So by hiring a good property manager, you're going to have less vacancy. And a very important question that I put up here is, how much does each day of vacancy cost you? That's very easy to figure out. You don't have to wonder. All you have to do is take the suggested monthly rent and divide it by 30. And you kind of look at it and go, wow, so that's a big number. I'm losing 120, 150, I'm losing, it could be several $1,000s in just a couple weeks, or several $1,000s in just 30 days. So it's very important that you divide your monthly rent by 30 and understand how much money you're losing every single day. A really common scenario comes to mind when we suggest a property, for example, that needs a refrigerator in order to attract a tenant. Okay, let's just say the refrigerator is $1,000. Well, if you look at it, and let's just say the property, I'm going to pick one in Texas that rents for $2,000 a month. If the property rents for $2,000 a month, then we know that after about 2 weeks of vacancy, we've lost $1,000. Okay, well, if we can place a refrigerator in a property and get it rented within 2 weeks versus having that property sit on the market for an entire month, well, not only do we break even on the expense of the fridge immediately, we now have a property that has a fridge for the next 10 or 15 years. And when that renter moves out in 3 years from now, well, we should see a pretty quick turnaround again because we won't have to go out and buy any more appliances. So we really evaluate vacancy. Our job is to figure out how to decrease vacancy as much as possible, place the best renters that will hopefully stay as long as possible, and be attentive to the tenant and the needs of the property. Less liability. You should never meet your tenants. Yes, I'm talking to the self-managed landlords that have been best friends with their tenants for 7 years. You guys call me every day. You call me every day. I get a phone call every day from a landlord who is begging to get out of their landlord situation, and realizing that they became too close with their tenants that they're not able to raise rent, right? The tenant's going to scream and yell at them. No landlord wants that. So the landlord just keeps the rent low and loses thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars a year because they became friends with the renter. Forget about becoming friends with the renter. You should never meet your renter, ever, 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 ever. That's our job. That's why you hire a property manager. We take on the face of the property. We take over that liability. We're the ones that decline applications. And believe me, we get all kinds of angry responses when we decline applications. But we know how to properly and legally decline an application So we're following the fair housing laws. We know exactly what is considered tenant and landlord responsibility on a property. We know proper notice of rent increase. We know proper notice of entering a property. The fact of the matter is, by hiring a good property manager, you will decrease your liability of owning an investment property. Tenants shouldn't know who you are. They shouldn't know where you are. They shouldn't know anything about you. And Marshall Reddick takes on that layer of privacy. We don't share anything related to our landlords, not a single thing. And that's important. And whether you own a rental property that's 2 blocks away from you or 5,000 miles away from you, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Proximity of you to your rental property means nothing. Nothing. Means nothing. You got to look at this as a business and understand that liability can be significantly decreased by hiring a good property manager. Less expense for repairs and emergencies. So again, when we go into a property before we place the renter and we turn on the water fixtures and we test the appliances and we check the smoke alarms and we look at the AC filter and we look at the fence and we look at everything in that property to figure out what is the liability here. Are there tripping hazards? Are there safety hazards? We're going to mitigate that before we place a renter. We're going to try to take care of any deferred maintenance that might come up when a renter is living in a property. You got to understand that we have properties in Florida, Texas, and some pretty hot places in the country. And right now, there's extreme heat in a lot of places in the country. And if an AC unit, an AC condenser, stops working and stops blowing cold air, that is an emergency. And you want to make sure that you have the right property management team that knows how to assess an emergency like that. Less tenant turnover. We have a very professional relationship with our renters. We're responsive to maintenance requests. We also perform annual inspections to make sure that the tenants are not violating the lease or violating any building codes. Our ability to be responsive with our tenants and take care of them and show them that we're here to take care of them allows our tenants to have the confidence in renewing a lease with us and being happy with the property management. But I know as a property manager that sometimes tenants will move out of a property because they're not happy with that landlord or that property manager who they don't feel listens to them or responds to them or takes care of them. And then one of our key focuses is how we place renters. Better quality renters tend to take better care of your property and stay longer. And in a 4-bedroom, 3-bath, 2,200 square foot home, we're very unlikely to place a set of 3 roommates. We know there's a lot more turnover when it's not one family or one long-term renter. Finally, less stress, less headache, and less time away from your work and leisure. You should not own rental properties to save a few dollars. You should own rental properties for the financial benefit, the income, the equity build, and the ability to build a portfolio so that you can actually retire on your real estate. If your goal is just to own one investment property, manage it on your own, or find the cheapest property manager, you are always going to have a problem with that property, and it's probably going to prevent you from buying more properties. And I don't think any of us can retire off of one rental property. However, if you work with a company that can manage properties in 5 different states in all different categories, allowing you to build a portfolio over time, having one point of contact, there are major benefits of consolidating the communication and being able to scale a portfolio in a much more streamlined fashion. So I've circled the markets that Marshall Reddick has a brick and mortar office. We are licensed in the state of California, Texas, Tennessee, Kentucky, and Florida. And Clarksville, Tennessee is on the northern border of Tennessee, and we do have a lot of properties right on the north side in Kentucky. We also have opened up in the last year our Nashville market. We now sell and manage properties in Nashville, Tennessee. So you can see on here, we cover most of Southern California, all the way up to Agora Hills, North LA, all the way down to North San Diego. A lot of properties inland and Inland Empire and Riverside, all over Orange County and all over LA County. We cover the majority of Central Texas, from San Antonio to New Braunfels to Seguin, all the way up to Austin, Texas. And then we have an office in Southwest Florida, specifically in the Fort Myers, Cape Coral office. So as I mentioned, combined, we're at about 2,200 properties. The markets that are not in green are what we consider to be our third-party markets. So Marshall Reddick does not do sales or property management in those areas. We do have referrals for third-party companies, and we really do find a lot of landlords, the majority of our clients, 99%, purchasing in the markets that we do have an office, so that we can provide all of our, one-stop shop value. These pictures are my pride and joy. These were all taken in December of last year. The office on the top left, that's our Newport Beach office on MacArthur Boulevard in Newport Beach, California. That's about 75% of our California team. We've got our admin team here. We've also got our realtors, property managers, accountants, marketing team, web development team. And then in Texas, Tennessee, and Florida, you're looking at all of our real estate and property management team members. So in Texas, that picture was taken in front of our San Antonio office. All property management staff members, leasing agents, and realtors. You've got maintenance managers, tenant coordinators, leasing agents, property managers, and then a lot of our realtors as well. Amazing, amazing team of people. I'm sure some of you might even be recognizing some of them. And then in the bottom left corner, that was taken in front of our Clarksville, Tennessee office. We got about 4 or 5 people missing from it, but also property managers, maintenance managers, tenant coordinators, leasing agents, realtors. That's in front of our Clarksville, Tennessee office. And then finally on the bottom right, that is also about majority of our Cape Coral, Fort Myers, Florida team. So we cover an extremely large geographic territory for one property management company. In total, Marshall Reddick has about 115 staff members, and we're looking at, probably about maybe 70, 80% of them right now. So I hope you all have the opportunity to meet our staff members. If you're ever in any of our markets, let us know. We love having clients visit us. We love having our, clients come into the office and meet the team. And with that, I'm really, really excited to introduce you all to Emily Sanders. Emily has been with our company for just under 4 years. Emily has started and as myself, kind of from the bottom and has grown tremendously from there. Emily started as a property management coordinator, then from there became a property manager and is now our regional property manager. So Emily's job is to manage our property management teams in each office. We have 8 property managers comprised of the 4 offices that we're located in. Emily interfaces with our property managers in California, Texas, Tennessee, and Florida. I can't think of a more knowledgeable individual to have on our webinar with us tonight than Emily. So Emily, thank you again for joining us, and I'm excited to have you take it away from here.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you for that introduction, and good evening, everybody. I'm super excited to be here with you all tonight and talk through a lot of really good property management information. By way of just brief introduction, I know that my slide up here says a lot, but I have been in real estate, asset management, and property management for 12 years. I grew up actually outside of Memphis, Tennessee, and moved to Texas and settled in San Antonio, where I have called home for the last 12 years. And it's been a wonderful decision for myself and my family. As Scott said, I joined Marshall Reddick in 2018, and I have assisted over 350 individual investors with our property management services and helped grow our total portfolio to over 2,200 units under management across the country. So very excited again to be here. We do have a lot to cover, but as we go, I just want to remind you, if you have any questions or anything specific you'd like more information on, please do put any questions in the chat box and we can reach out to you after the webinar. All right, so diving right in, what should a professional property manager do for you? So in short, a professional property manager should do everything A to Z for you so that you can simply collect a rent check. We really want our investors and our landlords to be as hands-off as possible and have full trust and transparency with their property manager. So I'd like to touch on a few of these services below. All of the points below will be discussed in a lot of detail throughout this presentation, but we're going to do a little dive right now. So a professional property management company will estimate all your fix-up costs. So we'll go out to the property. We're going to inspect the property inside and out, test major components, and get our third-party vendors to estimate bids for you. If the work is going to be over a certain amount of money, if it's just a high dollar turn or repair, we are going to get you multiple bids. We're not going to just throw one bid at you and tell you that you got to do it. We believe that if you're spending money on your property, we want you to know which route to go. We're going to guide you through that and just give you all of the information as much as possible and clear and transparent as possible. After you approve the work, we're going to get your property fixed up quickly. So we don't want to sit on your property. We know that time is of the essence. So we want to get out there. We want to get these vendors on track, and we want to keep you updated along the way. After your property is done, well, actually, during the make-ready process, you're already going to be connected. You should be connected to a leasing agent by a professional property manager. So that leasing agent can run a rental market analysis for you, get all the information to you, what the market's looking like, what your property is going to rent for. And a good property manager and a good real estate agent will also give you some additional feedback, their own feedback on maybe some upgrades or some items that may not be required, but would be recommended to get you top of the market. Maybe adding in a refrigerator, I know Scott mentioned that earlier, or maybe switching out carpet for LVP. So those kinds of things, a good property manager and a good real estate agent will provide to you. Once the home is rent ready, we're going to advertise and show the property. So we actually advertise our rentals on all major listing sites. And when necessary, we push them also to the MLS to open up to third-party agents. Our website at Folio syndicates to all major listing sites, and we actually do pay for Zillow Premier, which is, I don't know if you guys know this, but Zillow recently became its own individual brokerage, and you have to pay to actually advertise on there. And Marshall Reddick does pay for that. So a good property manager will maximize every dollar to really market your home and grab and capture every audience. Once a prospect finds the property and they apply, we're going to screen the applicants, and this screen applicants is in bold and red for a reason. So we complete a 5-point screening check. If anything that the current climate in the last couple of years has taught us, is that we have to be very, very thorough in the screening process. We don't want to just throw anybody in a property just because they have a pulse and they're eager to sign a lease. We really want to vet prospects and make sure we're putting the highest quality tenant in your property. Once we get the tenant approved, we keep them on a tight timeline to get them to sign that lease ASAP. We generally hold our applicants to a 48-hour time frame to go ahead and get that lease signed so that we can secure the rental for you. Additionally, we don't ever pull the properties off of the market until the lease is signed. That way we don't miss any marketing time in case anything could happen with the prospect that was approved. Once the tenant signs the lease and they move in, we're responsible. We'll collect all of the rent and publish that for you in your portal. Scott mentioned earlier about the disbursements being sent to you on the 10th of every month along with your statement. So that's where that information will reflect. If the tenant's past due, we're very aggressive in following up on delinquent tenants. So we don't want tenants to be past due. We have a little bit of internal contest between each market who can have the lowest delinquency rate. And I think each market is well below 4 to 3%. So that's amazing. A good property manager will also perform all ongoing property maintenance and suggest preventative maintenance for you. So like here in Central Texas, it's 104 to 107 for the next 2 weeks straight. So well before that, we had recommended to all of our owners the preventative AC maintenance. So a good property manager will be proactive in that regard. A good property manager will also provide you your monthly and your year-end statements. So we have, as Scott mentioned, 8 accountants on staff, and they will handle all of the accounting, the 1099, and getting that sent over to you so you can file your taxes quickly. And then conducting periodic inspections. So property evaluations, onboardings, move-ins, move-out inspections, and at request, any additional inspections that you would like. So the property management life cycle, this pretty kind of explains itself. We've talked through this, but again, just to put it all on one little screen for you. So we'll do the initial property evaluation. So we'll take your call, we'll get information on the property, send somebody out to take a look at it, get as much information from you if it's tenant occupied. We'll run a rental analysis so that you can understand what your property could rent for. We'll get the management agreement over to you, get that signed and executed, get you onboarded, and then start any make-ready repairs if applicable, so if the property is vacant or if it's closing. We'll take all the photos and advertising, handle all of the showings, process all applications, run the screening and background, get the leases signed, and then we're going to do a move-in inspection. So this is an additional inspection that we do before a tenant moves in so we can document the condition. At this inspection, we also make sure the AC is functioning properly. We're flushing toilets, making sure nothing's running so that we can make sure the property is in its best condition. And then again, handle any ongoing maintenance and then any evaluations that you request thereafter. And then, of course, the move-out inspection and offboarding of the tenant. All right, so the rent-ready process. So during the rent-ready process, our team's ultimate goal is to get the property turned and ready for listing as soon as possible and at the very best price for you. Ensuring that repairs or renovations are completed properly, efficiently, and at a standard that's competitive with other homes in the area. This will allow us to market the property at the highest rate. So during this process, our areas of focus are maintenance. So we want to get out there, we want to fully inspect, make sure that the property is treated for any hazards, that it's deep cleaned, and any preventative maintenance or routine maintenance is scheduled and taken care of. We also want to make sure that a good property manager, will talk through the maintenance costs with you. It's widely understood that this is one of the biggest pain points for investors. Scott and I get calls from clients looking for a new property manager all the time about property management and about their maintenance costs. So we really, really try to target our focus heavily on the maintenance of everything. We want to make sure that we're getting you the best costs for repairs and make-readies. As Scott mentioned previously, we have relationships with multiple vendors of each trade. So we do want to make sure that we get everything taken care of for you at a reasonable cost. A professional management company during this process will also work closely with the real estate agent that's assigned specifically to your property. So we'll talk more about that in just a minute. But we want to make sure that the real estate agent that's going to be leasing your property is working closely with property management so we can get feedback from the agent and really understand the market, understand the property class, understand everything that's going to get your property leased at the highest rate. So the rent-ready process doesn't just start and stop with property management. It really includes everybody. It includes property management, the real estate agent, and the client. It's a very open and transparent conversation. Okay, so make-ready rent repairs. So here's an example on the screen right now of a rent-ready checklist. So this is an example of a checklist, and this is a more condensed version just for the sake of a PowerPoint, but we do have very long checklists that our maintenance team uses to check the property condition. This is important because when we're walking a property for a tenant to move in, we want to look at it through the eyes of the tenant and obviously through the eyes of property management. We want to make sure that this is a home that we ourselves would move into. So we want to make sure that we are documenting everything to the T. So we're turning on lights, we're checking the fans, we're checking the ACs, we're checking every component, interior and exterior, not only with this checklist, but also through a ton of photos. So our team, our Folio app that is used on our Mobile phones, when our team does inspections, actually allows us to take tons of photos for each room, and that is meticulously done and then shared to the owner's portal, and we can also share it to the tenant portal too. It's just as important for us to be transparent with them about our findings as it is with you as well. So again, full transparency here, that's what we're built on. So if something has to be replaced, repaired, or upgraded, you will also be able to visually confirm this through those reports. We don't want to just tell you that you need to take care of a large repair without giving you something to look at it that you can verify as well. On this screen, we have an example of a rent-ready invoice. So as you can see, we have a standard with our vendors. We require all of our vendors to itemize everything out. The last thing we want to do is submit an invoice to a landlord and have them see $5,000 that they owe, but they don't know what in the world that payment is going towards. So rather, we have our vendors line everything out so that when you get this invoice and you're reviewing everything, you know exactly what each item is going to cost and where your money is going to. Again, transparency is key here. So if I were being asked to spend $5,000 on something, I would want to see everything broken up. And because that's my expectation, I know it's going to be yours. So that's what we require of our maintenance vendors as well. This also helps us be able to, as a team, internally spot check invoices and really make sure that we're not being overcharged or egregiously charged for things, so we can go back to the vendor and negotiate on your behalf. That is also a key element to what a good property manager will do. They understand the market and repair costs, and they can fight on your behalf to get prices lowered, or with a great pool of vendors. Those vendors already work very closely, and we can negotiate pricing on your behalf. So having this full transparency is very beneficial for all involved. Fully transparent maintenance. So you're probably wondering why we have so many slides about maintenance, but that's because it really is just such a big deal. It's the largest cost for landlords, so we really spend a lot of time trying to understand it. When you bring a property over that's tenant occupied, or even if it's a new build, we want you to understand everything inside and out, and we want to understand everything inside and out about your property as well. So every investor, whether they're seasoned or this is their first investment property, always has a lot of questions about maintenance. And it's for good reason. It's a part of owning anything. It'll happen, and any kind of maintenance and how you handle it should be handled from a place of transparency and good intention. Scott had mentioned earlier that a bad PM will have in-house maintenance, and that is not just to say that lightly. That is something that we see time and time again. Those with in-house maintenance, they benefit directly from the repair request that your tenants put in, or even that they don't put in. A good PM will work with multiple vendors for each trade, so this keeps vendors honest. It keeps us able to keep our eyes and toes on the current market trends, and it keeps us just in the know and having really good knowledge of what maintenance should cost. A good PM also won't upcharge you for all kinds of maintenance things. They shouldn't make money off of doing something that is already a part of management. A good PM will also have a 24-hour emergency phone line, so one that's not automated, one that is answered and monitored by actual human beings. So we have staff members that handle our on-call, and they are able to attend and evaluate if something truly is an emergency, or if maybe the tenant is just being antsy. We won't just dispatch for anything. Additionally, just going back and kind of recapping everything, a professional and a reliable property manager will not have in-house maintenance and will not charge additional fees for handling maintenance. Also worth noting in this section, you'll see in italicized is that management companies that offer lower management fees are recouping this cost elsewhere. So again, that means through upcharging on your bills, charging you a fee for even servicing maintenance requests, or charging you a fee for processing maintenance invoices. So be very cautious of that and ask lots of questions. All right. So segueing into leasing, the fun part, the part that everybody loves because you get to make some money. So the goals of leasing a rental property. In short, the goal of leasing a rental property is to get you the highest rent with the lowest vacancy time. So how does a good property manager achieve this? Number one, they price appropriately. Pricing appropriately is so important. If you want to get the top of the market, or you're relying on sites like Zillow or Realtor with their estimates, and you're not understanding that those are both take the average price of the zip code and don't take into account any of the amenities or the size of your property, you're going to have longer vacancy. So we've got to make sure we price that appropriately, and a good property manager will run a rental analysis for you and have a lot of thorough, honest conversations about that. A good property manager will give you a highest price point and let you know that your property may sit for a bit. It's going to give you a low price point and let you know that's going to get your property leased the quickest, or they're going to give you a middle of the ground price point, which is going to get you a really great price, a really great leasing time. A good property manager will assign dedicated leasing agents. So as I mentioned earlier, a good PM is going to assign one specific real estate agent that is responsible for leasing your property. They're not going to have a whole host of leasing agents or real estate agents that are just all trying to throw darts at the board and land a renter for you. You're going to have one point of contact who's going to give you updates frequently throughout each week and secure your applicant. They're going to screen applicants manually and thoroughly. So we touched on that earlier. So that is, again, very important. And they're going to conduct a move-in and move-out inspection. So this is really important because we have to know the full condition. That way, any issues can be attended to, and at the end of the lease, we can bill the tenant back appropriately with all the documentation present. Okay, so how much will your property rent for? Your property will not rent for more than it's worth. And a lot of clients, I've had conversations with clients all the time where they really want their property to rent for the highest rate. They saw somebody down the road who rented their home for X amount, but that home may have been a 5-bedroom and their property is a 4-bedroom. The most important thing is to remember that your home will not rent for more than what it's worth. So how much will it rent for? So we run a market analysis. This is performed by an experienced real estate agent using data from the MLS, the multiple listing service. So they pull comps and they use very specific parameters to find out what your home is going to be worth. They only look in a specific geographical location outside of your subject property. They're looking at properties that have the same number of bedrooms, same number of bathrooms, same number of amenities. They're looking at everything that's rented. That's going to be the most important type of comparable, not what's listed on the market for. You can throw anything online and list it for whatever you'd like to. We want to see what things actually rented for. That's going to give you the best barometer for what your property is going to rent for. And how quickly or how recently it rented. So we try to only look at comps right now, especially that rented in the last 3 months. Anything past that, we know how the market is fluctuating. I know Scott again mentioned this earlier, but understanding the cost of vacancy. So again, we give you 3 price points. If you're at the higher end, you have to understand that you're going to pay for that cost of vacancy through loss of rent. So the example on the screen is a $3,000 rent amount. So if you take that $3,000 and divide it by 30 days, that's $100 a day that you're losing when your property is vacant. So if your property sits at the high end of the market and it goes a month vacant, you may have just lost $3,000. Whereas if your property was sitting at $2,500 and rented within 2 weeks, you would have not had that kind of loss. So very important, and a professional PM and realtor will always provide you this insight and transparency up front to ensure you understand the cost of vacancy when you're pricing your units. We're not a yes man. No good property manager is. We're here to support you and educate you through this process. So if we just said yes to everything, we would not be doing our job. So right here is just a quick example of a rental market analysis. So this is just a screenshot of what the MLS looks like and what criteria we put in. So we're looking at active, under contract, pending, or closed. We want to make sure we're only looking at comps that are the same property type, same beds, baths, same amenities. We want to look at all of that and make sure we are only looking at what compares to the subject. All right, so leasing agent responsibilities. So the leasing agent is the one who's going to take care of everything that we just discussed. So they're going to take care of listing the property, advertising, pre-screening, providing you with weekly updates, procuring the completed applications, and then ensuring that the lease is signed. Again, this is one singular person that's your point of contact, so you're not trying to figure out who you need to get these updates from. This should be automatic from a good property manager. Application guidelines. So quick little snapshot into some of our application guidelines. So we have a minimum 36-month positive rental history. However, if there's any any eviction or any landlord debt on the credit report, that's an automatic denial. We require tenants carry renter's insurance and make 3 times the monthly rent. We require that tenants have a FICO score of over 600, not a Credit Karma, but a FICO. So we run a really thorough background check, and we also do a in-depth landlord verification and employer verification as well. And then this screen is just going to give you another little snapshot. So again, background and criminal search. So we're looking for their background. We're looking for 600 FICO, 2.5 for the larger markets who have higher rents. So Southern California would be at a 2.5, and then 3 times for our other markets. We're going to manually call human resources and verify that the applicant is still employed, in fact, and in good standing. And then we're going to proceed with the rental history verification as well. So this is a snapshot of our website showing our rental listings and tenant applications. So we manage over 2,200 units across the country, and we only have 53 units available right now. That speaks to a couple different things. So supply and demand, and how effectively we can fill leases. So how has the current market affected leasing and PM? So supply and demand is the obvious one. So we've had a nationwide shortage of rentals due to the current market, both competitively within rentals and in the home purchasing market. We're seeing lower days on market. This is a direct correlation of supply and demand. So rentals are currently receiving 2 to 3 applications within the first 48 hours, and that's because our team actually picks up the phone and they help applications come through. And then more tenants renewing their leases at the end of their term instead of moving out. So again, it can be difficult for renters to purchase homes right now. So they are opting to stay in their property instead of moving out. And they'd like to secure these homes for longer lease terms as well. So I know that we have covered a lot of ground here tonight, and about how professional property management will take the guesswork out of managing your home. While there's so much more we could discuss, and I know Scott and I can talk for hours about property management, for the sake of time, please do utilize the chat box to ask any questions or request for any information, and we will connect with you after this presentation. I'm going to pass it back over to Scott. Thank you, everybody.
Round of applause, Emily. Great job. Amazing job. You know, we could definitely talk about property management for hours and hours, because every single day we talk about property management for hours and hours. So it's definitely what Emily and I eat, breathe, sleep, and yeah, and it's honestly something that we really enjoy. And I think we enjoy it because we have an amazing team, an amazing system, an amazing operation that we really know is superior in the property management industry. We're not perfect. We don't try to claim we're perfect. That is obviously going to be a way for us to probably decline if we have that mentality. So our really mentality is, yes, we do listen to our landlords. Obviously, we service our landlords. But importantly, like Emily said, we're not a yes man. We're not an order taker. There are systems and processes in place. However, our approach is very proactive. And I think that's one of the things that makes us so different and so unique is our proactive nature in property management. Proactive about spotting any issues in the property before we place the renter. Proactive in just getting to know everything we can about the applicants and doing the most extensive amount of screening and background checks. Proactive in the lease renewal, rather than just waiting for that 12-month lease to end, we reach out, 60 days before the end of the term to start working on that renewal. Everything that we do at every step in the process, collecting bids, getting bids from our vendors, reviewing the bids, doing the work, verifying the work, collecting the rent, reaching out to renters that are late in rent. Everything we do is proactive in our nature. So we're coming down about the last 5 minutes or so in the presentation. And Emily, thank you for mentioning the chat box. Unfortunately, we don't have enough time to go through questions one-on-one. It's okay. If you've already written questions, keep writing them. Sherry Brebner, one of our amazing and talented real estate advisors, is going to follow up with you and offer you a one-on-one conversation to kind of go through things in a little bit more detail, help you kind of put all this information together, personalize it, evaluate your goals, your questions individually. And Sherry will also be able to provide you a lot of resources that, we kind of talked about, but didn't get to provide each one of you tonight. So coming down to the end here, we have this kind of wheel here that we put together for just some really key important qualities to look for in a good property manager. So starting from the top and going clockwise, having innovative and robust software and technology is so important, especially in today's world of property management. We use AppFolio. Again, that's the #1 globally utilized management software in the industry, #1. And there's about 5 property management softwares that the majority of the industry use. And some use some really old, outdated, antiquated systems that are really going to make it difficult to streamline things. So many of you have been on our website. I think you all actually had to go on our website to register for the presentation. And I'm sure many of you have explored properties and looked at our property management page and our fund page and all of the details that we have on there. I think you can see just by spending about 5 to 10 minutes on our website, just how we value the importance of software and technology and allowing us to really just have the most checks and balances possible for our tenants and the best resources and customer experience for our landlords. So going to the right, we talked about the maintenance conflict of interest. And believe me, a large percentage of property managers in the industry have this conflict of interest. With us, you'll be able to get multiple bids for things that are more than just a few $100s. We'll be able to tell you about our experience using these vendors. They've all had to pass our vendor approval process and sign a vendor service agreement with Marshall Reddick. But we're able to offboard a vendor at any time. If we're not getting the service, the turnaround times, the quality, the communication that we expect, we can simply add more and more vendors. And we're constantly adding more vendors in each of our geographic locations and in each category. Going down clockwise, cost versus service, which is important to you. Marshall Reddick is not the most expensive property manager in the industry. We're not the cheapest property manager in the industry either. We simply provide the most amount of value for the cost of hiring us. And that's an important one. And you'll find that if your goal is to find the cheapest property management out there, you're definitely going to get the cheapest service out there. And it will absolutely reflect in the quality of service. Property management is definitely one of those industries where you get what you pay for, like many others. Sometimes a 1% difference, a difference of $10 a month, can mean an absolute dramatic difference in the quality and the service. So understand that if you find the cheapest one out there, you're probably going to get the cheapest quality of service too. Responsiveness. Well, you can test this out, right? Many of you already have properties we manage. Many of you are actually in the process of acquiring properties right now. Many of you have seen the type of customer service that Marshall Reddick provides. If not, try us out. Give us a call. Talk to somebody. Experience that responsiveness and that quality of service on your own before you hire us. That same level of service is exactly how we treat our tenants, it's how we treat our vendors, it's how we treat our staff members. Communication is the #1 aspect of Marshall Reddick's property management. And sending an email or placing a phone call and getting a response within 24 hours is something that you can expect working with Marshall Reddick, even us managing 2,200 properties. Like I said, we have over 100 staff members, and we have incredible software, incredible systems and processes that allow us to streamline things and provide amazing customer service no matter how many properties we manage. Continuing on, online reviews. My next screen, I'm going to show you some of our Yelp and Google reviews. Obviously, the 2 biggest websites for reviews these days are Yelp and Google. You can also find hundreds of reviews on us on our Zillow page. Collectively, we have well over 1,000 reviews online. I think the last time we checked, it's about 1,200 reviews. It's a pretty good amount of reviews. And you can read them. Obviously, with 1,200 reviews, not all 1,200 are 5 stars. I mean, this is reality, right? But it's the responses that I'm so extremely proud of as an ambassador of this company. We get all kinds of crazy things thrown at us. That's our job. Let us be the bad guy. Let us get the crap thrown at us every day. Let us get cursed at. It's reality. Not all renters are professional. Just welcome to the world, right? So we take the brunt of that, right? When we do those rent increases or those notices of non-renewal, or we handle maintenance and repairs, and we have some tenants that might not be as polite as most of you are. We deal with that. And still, we have about 4 to 4.5 stars on just every single website out there. Lastly, our cancellation policy. I have read some very egregious management agreements that try to lock landlords in for years and charge excessive fees for canceling. We have a very, very, what I would say is kind of two-sided, a very fair, even process in property management. We'd be happy to go over our cancellation policies with you, but the bottom line is that after 12 months of using our management, if a landlord's not happy with our service, they do not have to pay any fees to transfer. Thankfully, that doesn't happen. And it doesn't happen because we treat our clients with the mindset of us earning their business every single month, year after year after year. Where I've seen a lot of management companies become very complacent. We have clients that have been with us for a decade that are still buying more properties today because they're confident in the property management that we provide. So some screenshots on the left. I guess these are all Google. These are all our Google pages. We've got on the left our Newport Beach. That would be for our Southern California portfolio. Next one is our San Antonio Google page for the San Antonio, New Braunfels office. Then we've got our Clarksville, Tennessee page, and then our Cape Coral, Florida page. So what you can find on all of our Google and Yelp pages is a minimum of 4 stars, well up into 4.5, with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of reviews. I think that kind of speaks for itself in a way. And if you're looking at our website, you can go on to marshreddick.com, go to services, and then click property management, or you can get to it directly by going to marshreddick.com/management. You can read all the services we provide. You can see all the fees that we charge in each market. There's not that many. We basically have 3 main fees for doing property management: our management fee, our leasing fee, and our lease renewal fee. A couple other fees that really might come up with some properties, don't come up with others. But we encourage you guys to go on our website and explore more about our property management. If you have property that are in any of our markets, from California to Texas to Tennessee and Florida, you can go on our website and fill out a request form. Most likely myself or one of our staff members will be replying back to you to discuss your property in more detail. You can fill out all the information. We do a complimentary rental analysis up front. We also share our property management agreement up front. And in some cases, we can even visit the property before you make a decision. And I want to thank each one of you for joining us tonight. Emily, thank you again for doing an incredible job, just being very, very detailed, very concise, and really covering so many aspects of how we do property management. And folks, again, if you have more questions, go ahead and type it in, and we'll make sure to follow up with you. Emily, sorry, I just cut you off there.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I just wanted to say thank you to everybody. And if you have any questions, be sure to pop those in the chat box or fill out the consultation form, and we would love to get in touch with you. Thank you, Scott.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We love the relationship. I mean, we really like providing these resources, educating our clients, allowing them to achieve financial independence by having professional property management that they can rely on. So thank everybody for joining us. We look forward to speaking to you further. And really, we look forward to working with you one-on-one and being your asset managers, property managers, and helping you achieve financial independence. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.